Welcome to Friday Friends, RI Elder Info's weekly look at the organizations and individuals providing resources for Rhode Island seniors, caregivers, and professionals.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It is 9 o'clock on Friday, and here we are with Friday Friends, RI Elder Info's weekly conversation with people and organizations and resources that you or someone you know needs to know about. So please help us share the word, hit the like button, the share button, all those social media things that tell people to check something out, because it is all of us working together that we will help people get connected to the information and resources that already exist. Now, as you know, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we would not be able to come to you every week if it were not for the support of our sponsors. So a big thank you to Aetna and Point 32 Health, Oak Street Health, United Healthcare, JD Solutions, 321 Media, England Studio, and all of the many individual donors who are helping us get the word out. And for this month, we have a very special sponsor, so a big shout out and thank you to Ocean State Center for Independent Living. OSIL has some really amazing programs. And here's a few words about one of their great programs.
Did you know that smart home technology may help you live more independently? People with disabilities may apply for smart home technology through Ocean State Center for Independent Living's Smart Home Technology program. Devices include smart locks, video doorbells, alerting systems, smart bulbs, and smart hubs, and 2 months of connectivity. You must be a Rhode Island resident with a disability and fall within this program's financial guidelines. For more information, call us at 401-738-1013 or contact us by email at info@osil.org.
OSIL really is a great group to work with, so I really do encourage you to reach out to them if you are in need of any of those items. So this week we are speaking with Elaine McDonald, who runs a stroke support group over at Lifespan. Welcome, Elaine.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for everybody for joining us.
Yeah. So can you share with folks, what is a stroke?
Yeah, a stroke. I think most people have heard of the term stroke. A stroke is an injury to the brain. And there's two common types of strokes. One is an ischemic stroke, and the other is a hemorrhagic stroke. So when a ischemic stroke is when you have a clot that forms and interrupts the blood flow to a particular area of the brain. And the opposite of that is the hemorrhagic stroke, where you have a blood vessel in the brain that ruptures and causes a bleed in a particular area of the brain.
So often we think of heart attacks. Are strokes kind of like a brain attack?
That is a perfect way to put it, because just like a heart attack, it happens suddenly. It has varying degrees of impact on people, and it tends to have a lot of side effects for people to have to cope with afterwards. It's a real wake-up call for people.
Absolutely. What are some of the things that people can experience who have had a stroke?
If you're worried that someone has a stroke, there's acronym they use called FAST. So it's for face. So if you notice someone that has an unusual facial droop, you look at them and you think something isn't symmetric, that's a sign. And then the next one is, so that's face. The A is arms. So if a person all of a sudden can't raise one of their arms, or their strength in that arm is different. Exactly, you've got it. See, no stroke for you, Deb. The S is for speech. So if people can't speak, or their speech is garbled, or nonsensical. That's another real sign of a stroke. And then the T is for time. So, like, time is of the essence. They say that, um, you know, brain cells are equal to like time. So, you want to get help as quick as you can. So, the important thing to do is to call 911 right away, get help.
So those are things, if people are noticing that somebody's face may be a little off, or their smile is a little crooked, if they're having difficulty with processing speech and language, or their arms are not equal when being raised, that's like a 911, get somebody help immediately.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't hesitate.
Yeah. And that makes sense. And is there, if somebody gets to the hospital fast enough, does that potentially reduce the impact of a stroke?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why there's a whole protocol if you get to a hospital of how quickly they want to intervene. And hospitals will begin timing that when you come in an emergency department to get you to CAT scan and to get you the necessary care very quickly to minimize the impact of a stroke.
So it's definitely not one of those things that you're like, oh, I'm kind of noticing, but I'll wait until, my loved one gets home from work, or I'll wait and I'll call the
No,
doctor. It's like, do it now.
yeah, it's always surprising to me how many people think they're having a stroke and decide to drive themselves to the hospital. Don't drive yourself to the hospital. Either please call 911. I mean, time is really of the essence. And the ambulance people can call the hospital beforehand for you and let them know you're coming in and these are your symptoms. I mean,
Yeah.
it really makes a difference. I can't tell you how much it makes a difference.
Even the amount of time just to even set up, like, I would think an IV, like that's something that the rescue truck drivers can do. So that's all moments saved, and that's brain cells saved, right?
Exactly. That is exactly what it is, Deb. Yep.
That's awesome. So if someone has had a stroke and they're in the hospital recovering, that kind of thing, I would imagine, that individual's whole world just got turned upside down, and so did their caregivers.
Hmm.
It may even be someone who didn't think of themselves as a caregiver before that stroke happened. Are there resources available to help both of those individuals?
There are. In the end, I think initially stroke care focuses on the physical symptoms of a stroke. So if you have, for example, one side of your body, your arm and your leg is weak or not working, or if you have a lot of difficulty speaking or swallowing, those are the things that are going to get immediate attention. And you're going to be sent to see physical therapists and speech therapists. Um, what doesn't get as much attention is that emotional impact of a stroke, and that your whole life has just been, and your care partner's life has been turned upside down. So that's the role we're trying to fill is to help people navigate the emotional recovery.
Absolutely. When we think about strokes, I think a lot of times we may think of older adults. Is it something that can happen to younger people? Like, I remember a while back there was a lot of media around Teddy Bruschi from the Patriots, who had a stroke. But he was also a football player who, maybe had some head trauma going on too. Is stroke something that can happen to a younger person?
I'm so glad you brought that up because I think there is still a myth that stroke only happens to elderly people. Um, but I think a fair number, probably 75% of the folks that come to the Rhode Island Hospital Stroke Support Group are younger people who were working and living very vital lives, minimal health problems when they had their stroke. So I'm really trying to raise awareness of that as well. So thank you.
Yeah. And so when, not that it's easy at any age, because everything that you planned for tomorrow, the next day, and all your days after was just upended. What kinds of support can people count on?
I think people, it's like any kind of chronic illness. People rally around you at the beginning, but then that unfortunately tends to fade away, and people go back to their own lives and their families and their jobs. And so it leads to a real sense of isolation for folks who've had a stroke. I think that's one of the biggest emotional factors that we deal with in our group, is that sense of, who am I? I'm not a police officer or a lawyer or a social worker or a counselor anymore. Who am I, and what makes my life have meaning now?
Are people able to recover from strokes to return to the life that they had before?
It depends on the stroke. It depends on the severity of the stroke, the location of the stroke, what residual symptoms folks are left with. So there are some people who have been able to go back to previous jobs, and there were others who have had to sort of remake their identity and do something different. I know one particular woman who was unable to go back to her work as a counselor, but she started a non-for-profit for people with aphasia and who've had a stroke. So you can make meaning of your life. It's different, it's difficult, but it's absolutely doable.
That is very hopeful words. If someone wanted to participate in a support group for individuals who had a stroke, or individuals who are caring for someone who had a stroke, are those support groups available? And if they are, when and where and how do they meet?
Yes, they are available. In Rhode Island, we're fortunate enough, we have two groups. Um, One is a general group, and it's open to all members of the stroke community. So it's open to stroke survivors, their families, uh, interested, it could be siblings, it could be children, spouses. So just anybody who would like to attend and learn more. And then we have, and that's an hour and a half. It meets once a month. And right now we have a hybrid group. You can meet in person, and that's in Rhode Island Hospital, APC building. And we do it from 6 to 7 to accommodate folks who are working. Um, and the other group is strictly for care partners. And we did that group because we've discovered that it really is upending for those folks too. And you're given this whole overwhelming job with no training. And so we found people really need a safe space to share with others. So I facilitate that group, but I think people learn so much from each other. I really feel like I just put the people together, and they do everything. It's a really wonderful group.
That's great. So when does the one for people who have stroke, when does that meet at the APC building?
It meets, the first one is the second Wednesday of every month, 6 to 7:30. And the Care Partners group is strictly by Zoom, and that meets the third Wednesday of every month at 6.
Okay, so one is kind of just before the middle of the month, and the other is the middle of the month on a Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's kind of easy to remember.
It is.
If people wanted to, do you need to register ahead of time? Do you just sign up? How does that work? Who do they reach out to take care of that?
Right now, we do not have any pre-registration requirements. If people would like to get more information, the woman who coordinates it and sends out the emails with the links on it for the group and the details is Nikisha Brown. Her phone number is 444-8237. And she's in the stroke center at Rhode Island Hospital.
And that was 444-8237?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, thank you for putting that in the chat, Deb.
And she'll be able to let people know how to get the Zoom links and all of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And you're welcome to call me too. My number's in the chat and I can get you that information as well.
Okay. And
And
that's
some
the
people are
273
nervous about going
7100
to,
1200.
yes.
Okay.
Yep. And some people, if you're nervous about going to a group and you just want to talk about it a little more and privately ask questions or talk about your concerns, by all means, do that. Call me.
Very good. And are you generally available standard office hours for folks?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
And if you get, I work at the VA. So if you get a voicemail and you think, oh, this isn't Elaine, it's me, and feel free to leave the message.
Oh, good. Good.
It's
Good.
not my voice on the voicemail.
No. Why would it be through that?
Why would it be?
Yes, those automated systems are lovely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And do people usually continue to participate in the support groups, or is it usually they're there for 4 to 6 weeks or drop in, or does it follow community?
Yeah, I think people tend to. I think most people join 3 to 6 months after they've had a stroke because that's when they're through, the hospitalization, the acute rehab, if they're going to go to that. They're back home and they're realizing that the emotional piece of the stroke has taken its toll. And so that's when they start realizing I need some support for this area of my life as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and we've had people who've come for years, and they do that because they've been where new people are, and they get meaning out of helping folks. And so they'll be able to say to people, this is what worked for me, or I felt that same way, and this is what I did to help myself. And then we have people who come for a few months and it meets their needs and they bow out. And any of that is just fine with me. I'm very open to whatever works for somebody.
That's awesome. And it's actually you who runs the group, right?
I run the group, yes.
This is awesome.
Yeah, I think we've been doing it 15 years or so. It's been around for a while, so.
And, hopefully one day stroke will go away, right?
Oh, I hope so. Isn't that everybody's goal?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They're really doing tremendous research. I am hopeful, and I've seen a lot of changes just in my life, time working in this, and that's very inspiring too.
Very good. So just one quick reminder of the FAST acronym. If somebody thinks somebody is having a stroke, what is it that they need to look for again?
What you want is a facial symmetry. So you want to look, and if someone has a facial droop, one part of their mouth is going down, or their eye looks like it's droopy a little bit on one side. Exactly. Thank you. And then it's your arm. So if people maybe can't raise one arm, or if you ask them to squeeze your hands and the strength is very uneven, that's another indication. And then the third one is your speech. So, and all of those don't need to be present for you to be concerned. So if your speech is garbled, or people can speak, or people are speaking, but it's not making, it's nonsensical. That's when you want to go to the T, which is time, and you want to call 911.
That is awesome. And help is available.
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely amazing what they can do in stroke care right now. I work with some really wonderful, amazing people, and I am astounded in the progress people have made in stroke care over the years.
Elaine, I am so grateful that you were able to come on today and talk about this and help people get connected with the resources that are out there for folks who have survived a stroke and those who have found themselves to be caring for someone who has survived a stroke. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for this opportunity to spread the word about it. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Everybody, again, if you think someone might be having a stroke, or if you think yourself, if you're having a stroke, it's really important that you call rescue right away and you dial the 911. It is brain cells that you're saving. So you want to absolutely act fast. So I hope that you all take care. I look forward to seeing you again next week. In the meantime, be well and be kind.
If you liked this video, please follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube. For more information, visit rielderinfo.com or call 401-585-0509. If you have any questions, email deb@rielderinfo.com.